I've been thinking about this lately. What are the lies that keep us limited? I don't know. I think there's four lies that I think we all wrestle with at times in our life. Maybe not all together or simultaneously, but I think at some point or another, these are questions or lies that we have to reconcile or work with. What are those four lies, right? That keep us limited. The first one I think is I am who others say that I am. And that could be good or bad, right? But as soon as we start building our life, our identity, our value off of what others say that we are, I think we become limited and we start settling for something less than what we were actually born and created for. See, others have opinions of what they want from us, what they expect from us, how we should show up for them, right? They want a human, a person, a relationship typically that meets the needs that they have, that answers the questions that they have, that aligns with the beliefs that they have. And these things aren't necessarily good or bad, they're just not us. They may not agree with what we believe or think about ourselves, our values, and our beliefs. So when we start aligning ourselves with the lies of what other people believe we should be or how we should show up, I think we end up actually hurting ourselves, actually settling, actually becoming a lesser than version of who we're meant to be. And the other side of that is good. We can get caught up in the praise of others as well, can't we? I mean, we can get caught up in the accolades, the attaboys, right? I mean, we all love that. We all love it when someone acknowledges us, recognizes us. I mean, I think that's some of our core created needs is to be recognized, seen, loved, heard, right? Valued. I think that is all real feelings, real emotions, real needs or desires that we each have. But I think sometimes what happens is those needs that we have to be loved, seen, recognized, valued, heard, understood, when we start trying to meet those needs in illegitimate ways through outside sources that have different agendas, again, I think we end up setting ourselves up and we're never quite satisfied. So the first lie that keeps us limited, I believe, is this lie that I am who others say I am, whether it's good or bad. We shouldn't get caught up in the accolades of others and allow that to drive us and define us. And we shouldn't get caught up in the expectations, desires, wants of others as well. Right? So here's the second lie. I am what I own. I am my possessions. And I think that's a challenge as well, right? It's oftentimes we can get caught up in this idea or need for things to define us, those possessions, the toys that we have, the cars that we drive, the watches that we wear, the clothes that we wear, right? All of these things, these outward appearances that we present um, as if they are somehow defining us, as if they are us, those possessions that we have, when those possessions that we have, we present in the hopes that others might see us in a certain light, define us in a certain way, value us in a certain way, right? You know, the difference between when you drive up in that hoopty or when you drive up in that, nice fancy sports car. It was interesting on a personal note with that. I was a pastor for several years, and at one point in the past, when I was pastoring a church that we had planted, I got a new car. I was excited about the new car that I had gotten, right? And it was a Cadillac, and it was the sport version of a Cadillac, right? Two-door, low to the ground. Man, it looked good, and I looked good in it. And you know what? I didn't have that car for very long. I struggled with that car after I got it, with motivations, right? What the reason I got it. When I would show up to missions or ministry things around the city, it was interesting. I don't know if people saw me this way or what their thoughts were when they saw me drive up that way and they knew I was a pastor. Again, this is my own limiting beliefs in my head. but I started struggling with the impression that that gave, and that I was somehow creating an identity for others that wasn't necessarily built in truth, that I wanted them to see me as my possession, this really nice, brand new, sporty Cadillac, right? And I wanted them to see me elevated in that position. I don't think I wanted that intentionally, but when I was driving it around, and the more I drove it and the more I kind of looked at myself and thought about it, the more I realized, man, this car really isn't who I am, right? It was fun to have, nothing wrong with having it, but I just realized for me, this possession was beginning to define me, and I was identifying myself with this possession, right? So that's just a personal story. It's not that you should or shouldn't have a nice car. It was how that impacted me, how I began to view life and myself. So then the third one is, so the first one is, I am who others say that I am. That's good or bad. I am my possessions. What about this third one? I am my accomplishments. I am what I achieve. I am what the title behind my name says that I am, right? A lot of times people ask you, hey, hi, I'm Rick, you know, who are you, or what do you do, or they want to know about us, right? And the first thing we identify with is our title, our job, what we do, right? Our accomplishments. Sometimes we put those out there first. I was the captain of, the president of, I serve on all these committees. And all of a sudden, we start identifying with this lie that somehow our accomplishments identify who we are, what we believe, what's important to us, our value, our worth. And it's caught up in our titles, our accomplishments, that corner office, the things that we do, the boards that we serve on, the positions that we hold. And the truth is, our value, our identity, our worth is not found in our accomplishments. Now, again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't reach for, seek to achieve greater things, greater positions, titles, because a lot of times those positions give us greater platforms and ability to influence and impact a broader audience. And we work hard to get into those positions. And those accomplishments aren't in themselves bad. But when we find our value and worth, our identity, we believe the lie that we are who our accomplishments say we are. What happens when those accomplishments get taken away? What happens when we retire? What happens when we lose our job or we change careers and we lose our title? Who are we then, right? What does that say about us? That title, Rick Torreson, with the doctorate by his name, or master's by his name, or certifications by his name, are all those things actually the things that define me and who I am? They let people know my accomplishment. They let them know the things that I've worked hard to reach and achieve, but I am not my accomplishments. I'm so much more than that. So that's the third one. The fourth one, this last one I'd say, is I am what I look like. Now, this one's harder. This one's about our appearance and the value and worth that we see in ourselves, how we choose to show up, not just the clothes that we wear, but our hair, our jewelry, our makeup, our um, things that we adorn ourselves with. Somehow we identify with a certain look. So I do a lot of public speaking, do some keynoting, and in that process, part of the conversation, as I've been trying to grow that part of who I am and what I do, is that presentation, how I look when I stand on stage. And in that environment, it matters, right? How I present and show myself matters, especially depending on the group that I'm speaking to, right? Does my dress, does my appearance, what I look like, does it speak to, connect with the audience that I'm trying to reach? And I understand that. And that's an important consideration in my speaking and in my communicating. But the truth is, the lie that we believe is, I am how I look, how I dress, how I show up. Now, I got to tell you, I got to be honest. I was never a shoes guy, but my son was in clothing, and he worked for different clothing outlets, and he helped dress me for a time. And he would put certain watches on me and certain shoes on me, and man, I really liked them. And so I began to become more of this shoes hound, right? And have more shoes now than I know what to do with. And the clothes that I wear absolutely impact how I feel about myself, how I um, the energy that I have, how I show up in environments. So it does matter what we wear um, towards my energy, my belief, my confidence. And so I don't knock that. I don't disagree with that. I don't think we shouldn't pay attention to what we dress. But the danger in all of these things, which on their own aren't dangerous, but when they become how we define ourselves, they become negatives. They become ceilings. They become weights. They become obstacles to our actual growth, identity, influence, and impact that we were born and created for. So here's the things. Here's what we need to be careful of. These lies that keep us living limited life. The first one I mentioned is I am who others say that I am, good or bad. That's a lie. We are not that. The second one is I am my possessions, what I own, what I have. It's a lie. We're not our possessions. The third one is I am my accomplishments. Again, lie. We are not the titles, our accomplishments, what we achieve. And the last one is I am what I look like. That vanity, that look and that image, that does not define who I am either. So those can all be traps. And here's the thing. So then what does define us? What does give us value? Who are we, right? If it's not caught up in what others say, in my possessions, in my accomplishments, in my looks, where is it discovered and found? So many of you know I'm a person of faith. I didn't grow up in faith, but I ran into it. I collided with faith. And the faith I collided with wasn't a religion, it wasn't a denomination, it was a relationship. And that relationship spoke to me. There was a scripture, Psalm 139. And that scripture, I didn't wasn't a person of faith when someone shared that with me, but that scripture is a conversation between God and David. And they told me, read this as if you're David and God's talking to you. And in that scripture, it describes God's love and care for me, how he sees me, how he identifies me, the value that he sees in us. I'd encourage you to go read it, even if you're not a person of faith. Go check out Psalm 139. Read it as if God's talking to you, because God defines David's value and worth in his createdness, that he knit him together in his mother's womb, that his thoughts for him are more numerous than the thoughts of all the grains of sand on the seashore, that he can't hide from him, that no matter where he goes, to the heights or to the depths, that God's there and he sees him and he values him. He numbers the hairs on his head. And this incredible relational connection with the one who created us and knit us together in our mother's womb. And again, I wasn't a person of faith when I ran across that, but I remember reading that and going, my goodness, if this is God, if this is Christianity, if this is faith, if this is what this is about, then I want this. Because what it did is it spoke to who I am. It spoke to my identity. And that's probably the most valuable thing that we are all wrestling with and all seeking, that causes the most struggle in our lives. And it's our identity. When we don't understand who we are, our value, our purpose, our worth, then we begin to chase things to define us that were never meant to define us. And then when we put those clothing on of who I am or who others say that I am or what I own or my accomplishments or how I look, when we put those clothes and thoughts on, we actually are settling for something less than the amazing human that you were called and created to be in your mother's womb. See, there's no accidents, there's no mistakes. God has a purpose, a plan, and a future and a hope for us. And these are things that people told me. So when I gave my life to Jesus, it was because of the relational dynamic, not rules or laws or anything like that. It was about, wow, I didn't realize how much of an orphan I was in my thinking, that I didn't truly know and understand who I was, not what I was meant to do, but who I was, that I had value and I had worth. It was all caught up in the world around me, circumstances, what other people thought and what other people said. So I just want to share with you today, if nothing else, and again, if you're not a person of faith, that's okay. I want you to hear this though. You have value, you have worth, not in what you do, not in what you wear, not in what you own, not in what others say, but you have value and worth simply by your createdness, simply for the fact of who you are, just as you are. You were perfectly and wonderfully created. Now, I know you may go, but Rick, you don't know my story. You don't know where I've been. You don't know the pain that I've been through, the challenge I've been through, the trauma, the drama, the accusations, the things that have been done to me or happened to me. I don't know any of that. And I'm sorry if you've been through some hard things. I think we all have, right? But those things don't get to define you. Here's really important, really important. Your past was never meant to define your future. It should inform you, it should refine you, but it should never define you. You're not defined by what you've done or not done, by the trauma you've experienced, or even your successes. You are not defined by your past. Because when we allow ourselves to be defined by our past, it's like if you put your hands in front of your face and you look at things, right? This is all of my past limitations, scars, pains, and brokenness. I can see the camera. I can see the screen. I can even make out parts of me, but it's not clear. So when we allow our past to define our future, we set up a ceiling over our lives and we settle for something less than we were born and created for. But when we understand our past was never meant to define our future, to be the lenses by which we see our future, and we clean those lenses by allowing our past to refine us and inform us, but not define us, we clean our lenses. Now I can see clearly because the scars and the pain and the brokenness of my past are no longer defining my future, the lenses by which I see what's in front of me. In other words, the future becomes a blank page. It hasn't been written yet. It hasn't happened yet. And here's the cool part. You get to be the author and the star of your own story. You need to pick up the pen and start writing your story. Take it from the world, take it from others, take the pen away from the circumstances and the environment, take the pen away from your broken past and the trauma you've been through and the abuse you've experienced. Don't let those things now dictate the future that you were born, created, and called to live into, the greatness that's inside of you. That's why I talk about being born limitless. We were born with limitless potential in us. And then the world happens and life happens and walls come up and things start to define us and we start giving up on that limitless belief that we can do anything we put our mind to. And we start settling for lies and we call them normal. And then we build ceilings over us that cause us to settle for something less than. You are not less than. You are greater than you can ever hope, think, or imagine. So I want to encourage you today. Challenge those beliefs. Challenge the lies. Don't identify yourself with possessions or outside thoughts and accomplishments or other people's opinions or how you look. Identify yourself with the greatness that you were born, created, and called to be about and to have. So there you go. Went on preaching a little bit, but I want to encourage you today. These lies that limit us aren't meant to define you any longer. And if you're ready to break through, to crush the lies, to replace them with a truth, to make new declarations over your life, to believe again, to dream again, to dare again, you don't have to do it alone. I want to invite you into community with us. We've got some amazing stuff coming right now. The best way to jump in with our community is through our private Facebook community, the Limitless Leader, right? And that place is a place for you to come with people just like you who's able to empower one another, speak life into another, mastermind together. I share stories in there. We talk a lot in that community, and we encourage one another along the way, challenging the limiting beliefs we've called normal, replacing them with limitless ones, and walking into the future that's waiting for us. So if you'd like to be a part of that, you can follow the link. You can ask to join. Come in that community. It's a safe place. Love to see you there. And there's where you're going to learn all the amazing things that we've got going on. Now, we got big announcements coming here in this next month or so, rolling out some new things that I'm so excited about because they're tools that are going to help us identify limiting beliefs, replace them with limitless ones, make new declarations over our lives, and begin to build roadmaps to our greatest significance. So guys, as I always say, listen, here's what I know. Your best is yet to come. You were born limitless. You were created for more, not stuff and things, but influence and impact, a future and a hope. I don't know what your more is, but my passion and desire, what I've given my life to, is to help you discover that more and to walk it out. I'd love to partner with you. Let me know how I can serve you. God bless you guys, and remember, your best is yet to come.